Hello, and welcome to the 12th House.
I'm Michelle.
I'm Janelle.
Say it again.
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Wallace. And we are here today to chat with you about...
Procrastination.
Yeah.
Procrastination station.
Womp womp.
Don't you just get a hard on when you think about it?
Yeah.
Man. Procrastination and the shoulds that come with procrastination have killed way more dreams than any no has ever killed dreams.
God.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, procrastination is a dream killer.
Yep.
It's kind of an enduring, evergreen topic, too.
Full 100%.
It's never going to go away completely.
Never going to give
But
you
there
up.
are new strategies to deal with it.
Absolutely. I think the first thing, though, is, what is procrastination?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when we hear that word, it feels so dirty. I mean, we all want, right? That's it's this, drudge, this, huge gray cloud that sits over our heads. And I think oftentimes people feel like when they're procrastinating that there's actually something wrong with them, and that they are not capable of doing the thing. Or that they've fallen out of love with it, right?
They make meaning of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, I'm not doing this thing, and that must mean that I'm not on my path.
Yeah.
Or I'm not meant to do it.
Exactly, which is such a scary and dangerous thought, and it's also completely the opposite of the truth. I watched this TED Talk with this Dr. Nick Vogue. And he talks a lot about the art of procrastination, not the art of procrastination, although
it's quite an art.
Someone should write that book.
Yeah, there is an art. If you've ever waited until 12 hours before an essay, I think this is due. Yeah, exactly.
One day.
A lot of art is made while procrastinating.
Yeah,
beautiful art.
It's true. It's very true. But I really liked, he created sort of a framework around procrastination, a new idea. That it's actually not something that signals that there's something wrong with us or that we're not capable of doing the thing. Instead, it is the way for us to protect ourselves against failure and the outcome of what failing looks like. He talks a lot about this thing called the self-worth theory of achievement motivation, which basically is defined as the need to be seen as capable, competent, and able. And so when I think about that in the context of my own life, I haven't necessarily always been in spaces where other people outside of myself have put a pressure on me to achieve at a high level, but I put that pressure on myself. And so oftentimes when I find myself procrastinating, it comes down to this blend of this really strong will and desire to do something and the fear of failing at it, or maybe the fear of succeeding at it, although it's more so failing most of the time for me. And it cripples me. It stops me from doing it. It really has nothing to do with me not being able to do it. I don't want to fail. I don't want to look bad. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look incompetent. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people deal with that and don't understand what exactly it is they're dealing with. And so we have to kind of learn how to step outside of the procrastination itself and realize we want to do this thing. I think one of the things that helps reframe that idea, or one of the ways that you can come out of that procrastination is remembering the why, right? We get into something because we want to do it. We have a passion and a desire for it. And when we're not into how we can help procrastination yet, are we? But I just threw that in there.
Just don't worry. I got you.
Okay. Editing. Thank you. Well, let's fix that in editing. But yeah, basically procrastination is a way that we protect ourselves from failure. And I think also too, it's it's a safeguard, right? So if we procrastinate all the way up until the final hour of something and we don't do very well on it, it's a built-in excuse, right?
You can say, if I'd actually had 2 weeks to work on it, it would have been so much better. But, considering
exactly what
I worked with, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Or if we do really, really well at that thing, then it's procrastination works, I can procrastinate on everything, which is a dangerous game, right?
Well, if you have ADHD or you have a squiggly brain, then your brain needs those extreme norepinephrine and dopamine hits. So you actually get into that cycle of procrastination where when you procrastinate, your anxiety goes up. Procrastination is a form of self-violence, right? All that it does is it make you worry more. So you're out at dinner on Friday night, procrastinating, putting off that thing that's due on Monday morning, and you're at dinner, and part of you is saying, I should be at home writing that thing or doing that thing because it's due on Monday. And then, so you're not actually present. You're not enjoying yourself. You're not totally free. You have a little bit of anxiety in your head. And as the deadline creeps up more and more, that anxiety gets bigger and bigger. And those are the, like, someone with a squiggly brain or with ADHD needs much more stimulus, where they have an understimulated brain. So they need that extra stimulus of anxiety. Instead of a level 2 anxiety, they need a level 10 anxiety in order to get into action. And that often means that they wait until the very last minute or past a deadline. And then that dopamine hit is so sweet when you finish something. And then in order to regulate your system, you now have too much dopamine, so you need, and you have too much novelty, so now you need more norepinephrine. Those are the two chemicals that help you focus. So procrastination is almost, for some people, it can feel necessary. That's why, I can't do this until the hour before it's due. I literally sit down to try and do it, and I cannot do it. And it's because you've trained yourself to get into that cycle, and trust me, I know it well.
Yeah. Oh, same. I was like, hi, my name's Janelle, and I'm a procrastinator. Serial procrastinator.
Yeah, and there's this part of us that knows the thought work, of I'm actually self-sabotaging. I'm preventing myself from failing, but I'm also not acting. It's like I'm in this weird liminal space, and yet I can't help but do it. It's kind of like both the anatomy of our brain that's working against us in a way, and also the way that we think about ourselves and sort of the strategy that we're taking.
Yeah, and I think it's emphasized when you're working alone a lot too. When you're somebody who maybe freelances or you work from home, even with other teams, but you spend a lot of time alone, there's not a lot of accountability potentially built into your schedule, or if you're managing your own schedule, all of this is heightened tenfold. And then so you have to rely on really a lot of willpower, which doesn't last very long. As the days and weeks go on, you have a very limited supply of willpower. And so relying on that is kind of also setting yourself up to fail, and then you become identified with that. It's a vicious cycle.
It is. It really is.
Extremely rude.
So rude.
Yeah. I was thinking about it's particularly difficult. I mean, it's difficult for everybody who's dealing with it. And I was thinking about creatives as well, right? Because I mean, everything that you create is, you're not under a deadline, or unless somebody's commissioning something specific. Right. If you're left to your own devices in terms of, making your next project, and creating something or a container for yourself to really do the thing that you do. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of that self-sabotage, talk in the creative world. Because when we're not creating, we're not doing anything. We're not doing our thing. And how can we expect to build a career or a life or make money if we're not doing the thing that we've set out to do? And I don't necessarily, I mean, self-sabotage is very real. But I don't define procrastination as self-sabotage. I don't think that's what it is. I think we've been trained to believe that that's what we're doing. But again, with the new sort of framework around procrastination and protecting yourself, safeguarding, it's just another strategy. But the question always becomes, does that strategy actually work for you?
Right. Yeah, I think anything that isn't helping you grow that you're doing unconsciously is self-sabotage. It might not be as blatant, it's it's not Tanya Harding your knees or something. But whatever.
Yeah, Nancy
Kerrigan. But yeah, I mean, another thing, I think the pendulum kind of swings between these two extremes of I'm procrastinating, I'm a creative, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a solopreneur, I'm someone who doesn't really have to be accountable to anyone but myself, and I have to pay my rent, and that's pretty much it. So my deadlines or my goals or whatever are kind of fake and amorphous versus, I know that I need to set really strong goals for myself. I know that I need to create these boundaries for myself, and that actually becomes super rigid because you're I need to get this thing done, and it's a fake deadline that you've created for yourself that either is a fake deadline, so you ignore it, or you get yourself into that cycle, and you've built this cycle for yourself, which I think happens a ton of procrastinating. oh my God, being so stressed up to the deadline. Fuck, I have to put this thing out, when it's like, well, you're the only one who cares when it goes out. Like nobody knows that you're supposed to send the email on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Yes, it might impact your sales, but like, you could send it on Tuesday afternoon. You could send it on Wednesday morning, probably. And like finding that happy medium between, okay, how do I create some structure for myself? Because that's important, to your point, Janelle, on like continuing to grow as a person, being prolific as a creator. That means showing up consistently every single day. And on the days that we don't want to show up, which happen a lot, habits are the things that we can fall back on to when we don't want to be creative, when we don't, like when we can't get a boner up for our work, when we're not inspired. That's when we rely on our habits to like help us get through those times of darkness, of depression, of like not really knowing why we're doing the thing. And when we procrastinate, it often means that our habits fall by the wayside, or we actually have a dearth of habits. And I think that kind of goes into extended mind theory.
Yeah, I mean, I think also what extended mind theory, again, we've talked about it here and there throughout a lot of the different stuff that we're working on right now. But what I like about extended mind theory specifically is that it's a framework to use to understand that your brain is not necessarily a muscle or a computer. It's much more complex than that. If you work your brain harder in one direction, that doesn't mean that you're going to get the thing done that you set out to do. Sometimes you actually need to do something entirely different to extend your mind in a direction that you really couldn't conceive.
Yeah, that's like when you sit down and you're like, I'm going to force myself to be at this computer for the next 3 hours and I finish this thing, and you wake, it's like, look up 3 hours later and you're like, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
No, and that's actually one of the things we were talking about before we recorded, is you were saying, Janelle, one of the things that helps you get into flow state when you're procrastinating is doing something completely different.
Yeah, I have to get my mind off of the thing that I think I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I very much am a believer. We've said this a couple of times, that anytime you're creating anything, you know, be it in art or in business or whatever, and business is an art, all of it. It's all coming from this like elusive creative genius, right? That I think Elizabeth Gilbert, talks about.
You girls.
Yeah. Shout out to Liz. Love you, Liz. And so when I don't feel like I'm channeling that or tuned into my own elusive creative genius, I just have to get away. I need to get into something that makes me feel good. Because I think that genius comes when you are at a state of, not necessarily rest, although it definitely comes in rest, but like relaxation and an ease and flow, and not, tenseness. And so if I can get out into a garden, or if I can play a game, or like talk to a friend, or do something that like is going to bring me joy, I'm more likely to tap into that genius, than if I were to sit in front of a computer and like try and force it to come.
Yeah. And extended mind theory talks to that specifically. It's described like the definition, or, two of the people who actually coined this in a paper, Andy Clark and David Chalmers. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. They describe it as an active role of the environment in driving our cognitive processes. And I think that part of what another person who wrote a book on this, Annie Murphy Paul, what she talks about, to your point, Janelle, is that we can't, there's a limit to what our brains can absorb, and the rest we really collect in our unconscious, and there's a limit to our mental bandwidth. So when we're taking in certain information, we're storing that in our unconscious to be accessed later, and that means access through movement, through sight, through touch, through smell, through igniting the senses, and through really tapping into the body in a different way. So that inspiration, that muse can land on your shoulder, and you can be open to it, versus trying to use like the left brain process all the time. And so to extend the extended mind theory, what we talk about a lot is what we can do differently when we're in a group, or when we're in a setting that promotes inspiration, that promotes deep work, that promotes concentration, and how important that is to really plan for and curate for in your work life and in your week when possible.
Yeah, which is why we talk a lot about, or have spoken a bit about QuantumCon, which is specifically curated for that experience to get you out of that space of feeling of stuckness, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, you're obviously in a different environment, and you're around people who are doing the same thing, but maybe in different ways, and you're offered tools to get out of your head, to get out of the way that you have been approaching a topic or a subject or a project, which is, I think, important for anybody at all times. I think even when things feel like, they've been working, I think everything always needs change, just to freshen it up, because things get stale inevitably no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But especially now, I think there's a lot of feeling of not being able to get things done, because we've been in a very strange couple of years. Since March 2020, I think we've all been procrastinating on something.
Yeah.
Also, too, because it felt like at the beginning of, the pandemic, we all needed to be doing something grand and great and wonderful. And so we all were like these, like, fountains of ideas.
Yeah.
And a lot of great ideas, and ideas that I'm sure like a lot of you are listening to are like, yeah, like that, like doing that thing, like having like dog parties every week, where people can come and like have dog dates. Like that was a great idea,
Yeah.
I definitely did have that idea at some point in the last couple of years. I'm like, I should try that out.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody listening to it will do it. But like that was a great idea. And like, I actually really want to take the step or take the leap to get that done. We've been in this space of like, not being able to do it. Like this all these past 2 years have been this like these desires to do these things, and the fear of failing at it, because we haven't done it before, or there's so many other people who are doing things, and we see them on Instagram, we see them in this, on social media, but also like what happens when we see them in real life and we're working alongside of them, and like we feed off of that energy because we recognize, oh, we can do the same thing too, with our own ideas and our own creative geniuses. And so, yeah, I think that's a lot of that's a big reason why we created QuantumCon and thought it would be a great idea to invite the community to, or people who are feeling that sense of procrastination or just like lack of motivation or inspiration. All the Asians.
Yeah, something that really strikes me in particular about extended mind theory, but that comes up with procrastination, is really how physical it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when we've been stuck in our houses or in the same environment over and over again, that sort of like takes away the variables that will trigger a new idea, a new thought, a new way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And in extended mind theory, Annie Murphy Paul talks a lot about gesturing and gestural foreshadowing as basically a way for us to come up, like actually what I was just doing with my hand was sort of making this like circle, and we'll do it often as human beings to describe what we're trying to make someone understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making my hand almost go in like a circle, like I'm locking in an idea, because when we do this and we use our words, it can help us actually find the words. In fact, we will find the movement sometimes before we even find it like consciously in our brain what we're trying to describe to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And who invented, was it Johannes Salk? Who invented, like, who really, like, shit, what did he invent?
I don't know.
Penicillin.
Oh,
There we go.
Like iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter.
So in his lab, he would basically he would do this theory, which is that sometimes we need to act out or dance out or move out a concept and make it show up physically in our bodies before we have the words to articulate it. So he would act like a germ attacking, or a cell attacking a germ, in order to understand like how to basically create penicillin and like develop germ theory.
That's cool.
Wow, the inventor of penicillin. Who would have thought?
They like have descriptions of him like using his arms and like acting like a germ that's like he would like run across his studio or his lab and like attack. And I think that we do this a lot when we're kids.
Yeah.
Like what we play,
Imagine
and
we play.
it's not that we have to get up and like dance or like be silly, but just using our bodies in a different way, even like sitting in a different way, getting to a new space, like walking around perhaps a garden or an oasis in the middle of Los Angeles, you know, like even taking a phone call and walking around and doing it, or taking a walking meeting can change the way that your brain actually thinks. It can change what's coming up for you. And I think if we're feeling like we're stuck, there are some things that we can immediately shift that can make a huge difference. And often we can shift our environment, and that can be the thing that makes a difference. Now, if you can't like get out of your house, change where you sit.
Yeah.
Change the orientation of your desk in your room or wherever you might be. Maybe even like, I don't know, start your day with a walk.
Yeah.
Or start with a brainstorming session. Or if you have to call into a meeting, see if you can do it over the phone as opposed to on Zoom. I just got a little mini treadmill to go under my desk because it like helps me get some action, you know,
thoughts in motion.
Home. Yeah, and it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Well, even to your point, Anna Murphy-Paul also talks about what we miss when we're just over Zoom or text message or communicating online, is that when we're with people, we're subtly always mimicking people's energy through our bodies, and we're trying to interpret their body language through how that feels in our body.
Yeah.
And we're so sensitive to it, but we barely realize that and perceive that. So when people are like, oh, I'm so zoomed out, I can't do another Zoom, it's because we're missing so many of these cues that we're used to, what's the word, bouncing off from, like taking.
It's like turning off some of your senses. And instead of having 5 senses, you only get 3 senses to work with. So you're like overworking them in a way.
Yeah. And just even how often, I mean, maybe this is just one giant ad for Second Home, but
we love you, sponsor.
Or, you know, if you're in a coffee shop, which pre-pandemic, that's where a lot of people were working, maybe less so now, RIP those coffee shops.
Oh, no.
Or that type of coffee shop. They're all takeout now.
Yep, that's true.
You know, people make those jokes about the water cooler conversation, but it adds up, and it sometimes sparks inspiration or a conversation you overhear even as you're walking on the street to and from somewhere or a coffee shop, what have you. Yeah. But it all really does add up to extending your cognitive processes.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think you were going to connect the point. I was going to talk a little bit about also community, like just like the basic community. I don't know if you want to say your point.
I was just going to talk about body doubling.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think beyond, like, let me go back. I think whether you're in a coffee shop or a co-working space or sometimes even on a Zoom, body doubling is really helpful to a lot of people. And it's this concept that's particularly useful for people who are neurodivergent, who have ADHD or ADD, or are just neurodivergent across the board. But basically, when you can match someone else's energy and like literally mirror their body, because we have mirror neurons in our brains that help us respond appropriately and sort of stabilize with whoever is in the room with us. If someone else is sitting at their computer and is focused on their computer, that can be the thing. It's almost like you like jump on their train and you can sit and focus at your computer when you're doing it by yourself, you could not.
Yeah.
You absolutely could not do it. You couldn't get in there. All you need is someone else sitting beside you. They don't even need to talk to you. They don't need to be working with you. They don't even need to know you. That's why coffee shops can be so useful to so many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just mirror neurons, baby.
Yeah. I love all the science, and I'm sure there's some science to this as well, and it's very similar in terms of body doubling, but like just also on a very base level, just being a part of a community, a community of entrepreneurs, a community of you know, creative people, whatever it is, or just a community of like women, non-binary. I think that just in itself also is really helpful in producing and getting work done, or again, like finding inspiration. You know, you talk about the water cooler conversations. I think just knowing that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, I think when we feel alone and isolated, like a lot of us have felt in the last couple of years, it almost kind of feels like, what's the point?
Right.
What's the point of any of this? You
or
know?
like, nobody knows if I don't get this thing done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like a silent accountability.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's something to putting yourself in a community or being a part of one that is conducive to good work. And work that you feel proud of or work that you feel inspired by. And that's what we're doing at QuantumCon.
Yeah, it's true. And in Annie Murphy Paul's book, Extended Mind Theory, she talks about having supplies around you to help you see your old problem that you're stuck on through a new lens. And we really thought about that when we were curating the QuantumCon Get Shit Done weekend experience. Like, what tools would you need? What gifts? What books? What tarot cards? What experiences would you need as someone who maybe wants to get something done but has felt just stuck for months, years even? And how can we not only give you the perfect environment, but also give you these tools so that the next time this happens, you have them in your toolkit. So you don't have to necessarily go to a 48-hour weekend to break through a creative block, but you can actually pull out your handy dandy notebook, your bingo card, and be like, oh, right. That's how, I know how to do this. Like, I know how to solve this problem. And that to me is way more empowering. Like, just knowing that that you can figure it out, that you're not just stuck in, I don't know, like purgatory forever.
And not to mention, we're providing some awesome tools and workshops.
Yeah.
Not only in the environment and food, we feed you. We can't clothe you, but
well, we actually will clothe you.
Some clothes.
Sweatshirts, socks, cozy clothes.
And we're trying to provide that container, or we are providing that container, with some fun along the way, some fun workshops as well.
Yeah, we kind of like envisioned this with 3 different paths. Like the type of people that would be coming to QuantumCon. The first person is someone who's like making content. Maybe you're making your first course, or you're writing your book proposal, or you're writing a bunch of blog content and you're batching all of it. The next person is someone who's building out their marketing and branding. Maybe you're doing copywriting on your website, or you're building your website, or you're doing that high-level strategy for your social media or for your email. And then finally, the third track is like, the spring cleaning of it all. Maybe someone who's finally trying to get to inbox zero, or is organizing their Notion, or looks at their desktop and realizes that they have 700 screenshots that are not filed away, and they are running out of memory space, disk space, and it is time to find a new solution or system. But those are the things that often just keep getting punted to next week, to next month, to next year, and just carving out the space will make you feel so good.
Yeah.
And so alongside each of those 3 sort of tracks, we came up with 2 workshops for each of those tracks to help you get unstuck and to give you even more tools to like kind of run with the weekend and get the most out of it. And they're optional, optional workshops that you can drop into if you're feeling excited by them. But if you don't, that's okay too. We'll record them for all of our attendees so you don't miss anything, no FOMO. But you can watch them, when you feel delighted, inspired to.
Inspired, yeah.
Okay. How do we want to land this?
That was a great explanation. Yeah. Nothing more to be said after that. It's great.
I can't wait. I think it's just going to be like I just can't wait to see what comes out of it. I feel like this has almost been a pregnant pause the last 2 years. And like, I feel like people's blooms are like ready to pop through the surface, of the soil and just like poke their little gorgeous heads out. And I just can't wait to see what happens. The books get written, the courses that get made, the connections that that people make, the spring cleaning that happens on your computer or just like in your life and how that feels. You know that feeling when you like finish a really big book and you get to the last page and you're just like, it feels so good. That's how you're going to feel at the end of QuantumCon Get Shit Done weekend. Like,
absolutely.
It's going to be amazing. amazing.
Yeah, I'm likening everything to an orgasm right now. 'Cause the way that you're describing it is like it's what it feels like.
And I was like closing my eyes as I was saying it.
Just go ground little moan, you know. But it is like that's exactly what it is. And then even after, I think the idea too is to have you walk away feeling and knowing, right? Like you are very much capable. Like Michelle, like you
are
mentioned,
much
like
capable.
you're much capable. You're much capable. You capable much. Yeah, having the tools, walking away, but also just like leaving an experience with that energy, you know, and being able to carry that into the next thing.
It's sustaining. It's like life-giving.
Yeah. Exactly. It's absolutely life-giving. It gives you, I mean, so much momentum, so much space, and just like the motivation to keep that energy going. And then maybe the next weekend you'll be creating your own at-home retreat, you know?
I love that.
That's what we hope for.
I can't wait to meet people.
I know,
IRL.
I'm so excited to meet people.
Be in the mix.
So good. So make sure that you sign up for QuantumCon. It is the weekend of April 30th and May 1st here in LA. So you've got plenty of time to still book flights, to book hotels, to maybe even find someone in the Holisticism Hub who lives in LA who you could stay with and hang out with. Ooh. And tickets are early bird pricing ends on March 31st. Will this come out after that? I think it comes out that week, right?
Yes. Sorry, I don't have dates.
Well, I'll just, you can cut it. Early bird pricing ends on March 31st, and full price ticketing starts on April 1st.
Yeah.
So get ye
early
into QuantumCon. And there's a cute little like quiz that you take to sign up that'll tell you which track you're most likely like to pick and choose. But we just can't wait to have you, and we can't wait to see you. We can't wait for this to go super, super well and to sell out so that we can do it in more cities and more places. But we got to do this one first. It's a big experiment. So if you know someone in LA who would love QuantumCon Get Shit Done Weekend, send them the email. Send them to holisticism.party and get them to come. And if you are a business owner, a small business owner, and you have a team, we have a special team offer. So just shoot us an email at Janelle@oholisticism, and we will hook up your team so you all can have this deep work weekend. By the way,
it'd be so good as a team. I'm jealous.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, you can also get this paid for by your employer.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We've got a whole email for you, a template that we'll put in the show notes that you can send to your employer to get them to pay for QuantumCon weekend. And if you're a business owner, you can write this off. Like, come on, there's no reason not to come. Plus, you get benefits. A swag bag with like hundreds of dollars worth of swag inside of it of all of our favorite products. You guys, it's just going to be an amazing weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
We're feeding you.
Can't go wrong.
Clothing you. We're going to have so much fun together. So sign up, holisticism.party.
Come hang.
Come chill.
Can't wait to see you there and get shit done with you.
Want to see your beautiful faces.
And get shit done.
All
right. I think that's it.
That's our episode.
Procrastination.
Yeah.
Pounded.
Extend your mind with us. You're going to love that theory.
And I think that's it. We'll see you at QuantumCon.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week.
See you on the internet.
Bye-bye. Bye.